See if that works.
Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Move Forward with Cameron County. And today we've got a special guest. His name is Andrew Infante, and he's currently running for Cameron County Justice of the Peace, Precinct 1. Andrew, welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, how you doing? Appreciate it, Daniel, Mr. Salinas. Thank you very much for having me on here tonight. And, for those viewers at home, appreciate y'all tuning in and, listening to what I got to say and introduce myself. And hopefully we can, project some information off to you guys and keep you guys informed.
Alrighty. Well, we'll start off, Andrew, by kind of giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself out to the voters, the audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what actually convinced you to run for Justice of the Peace.
Yeah, so a little bit of background about myself. And so if you see me leaning forward, it's because I have a mic right in front of me. And so
That's fine.
if you can't hear me clearly, just let me know.
You're good.
So my name is Andrew Infante, and I am from Port Isabel, Texas. I was born and raised here in Port Isabel in our lovely Laguna Madre area. I graduated from Port Isabel High School, so I am a local from the area.
You're a Tarpon.
I'm a Tarpon, yes. So Tarpon, a lot of tradition here. So yes, so Tarpon, graduated from Port Isabel High School in 2011. I went off to A&M in College Station, graduated in 2016. So I am an Aggie as well. So Gig'em, class of 15 there. And I completed my post-secondary education in kinesiology. So that was a great learning experience over in College Station. Wouldn't take it back, wouldn't trade it for the world. And came back, moved back to, I actually moved to San Antonio for about a year. Found out real quick that I'm not a city person.
All of us did.
Yeah, so sitting in traffic to and from work for an hour, it just bumper to bumper, it wasn't for me. Granted, learned a lot in the city. Very, very, very different culture. It's very fast paced. There is a lot more to do, so to say. But like I said, just figured out real quick I wasn't a city person. So that's one of the things that brought me back home to Port Isabel. And I wanted to do something here. I'd always had a dream and a goal to try to make it a positive impact on our community. And so, I saved up some money after working at my aunt's restaurant. Shout out to my family over at Yummy's Bistro, my Uncle Neto, Aunt Rose. Pretty sure a lot of our viewers have been there. Some of the best breakfast we can get here in the area. So I learned a lot from them and how they built up their business, best business practices, interacting with customers, and just building something that's making that's positive. That's a positive impact. And so what I did was, I took my savings and I opened up a little gym here in Port Isabel, and so that's Rip Current Athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I said earlier, I got my degree in kinesiology. So sport conditioning, and I wanted to use that. And my goal, like I said, was to try to create a positive impact here, make a positive impact on our community. And so I figured, what better way to use my degree, of course, and make a positive impact through health and fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the last 3 years, we've been blessed enough to make it through the pandemic. Where a lot of the recreational facilities and things were shut down and just kind of had hit a big lull. Uh, so we're lucky enough to get through that. Thanks to our amazing members. They were super supportive of us through that whole time. And yeah, so that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years. Opened up my small business owner, and with my little gym here. And so, what pushed me into politics? What pushed me to run for justice of the peace? Well, it's exactly that. Becoming a business owner. And then as you grow a little older, for myself, I'm 28. I'll be 29 this year. But as you grow a little older, you you start to become more aware of how things are ran, and at least for me, and through the life cycle of a business owner, for me starting out, this is my first business, and so in meeting and talking with our local business leaders and our city leaders, and going through that process and seeing the steps and trying to and navigate those steps,
Mm-hmm.
it was I saw that in a way I could make a positive impact in a different way now.
Mm-hmm.
And so when like I said, I've been doing my gym, been working my gym for the last 3 years, and I feel like I've done what I've wanted to do. I've accomplished what I've wanted to accomplish in this sense through health and fitness. And so I figured, why not try to make my impact, you know, why not try to make a larger impact on our community through politics? Because as we've seen, especially the last 2 years, it matters greatly who your local public officials are.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody can agree with that. And
Right.
and nothing, no, it's nothing wrong or nothing against our current administration. I just believe that I can do a great job in that position. I believe that I can bring up that I say, let's say, I have this saying, it's called "rise the tides" for this position,
Mm-hmm.
and bring something great to it, because I have a different mindset, different points of view, a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's more analytical. It's more, how can we get how can we be efficient and effective,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to what's been the status quo.
Right.
And there are other reasons behind that as well, but I just want to make the biggest impact that I can here for our area. And I believe that, like I said, I just feel, well, knowing that our public officials have a huge impact on our everyday lives, especially locally, I believe I can do that in this position. And
Alrighty.
so,
Well,
yeah,
for some of our viewers, and including myself, could you give us a little bit of an insight as to what a justice of the peace does from day to day? I know that, two things that you guys do is marry people and pronounce people dead. But I don't know what else goes on in the position. I think most people don't. When they go out and they vote for these folks, they really don't know, what else they do. And could you give us a little bit of insight into what a justice of the peace does in
yes,
general?
sir, yes, sir. So I'm going to give you as much as, of course, that I've researched and know on my end. Once I'm elected, we can recap this again, and I can tell you in much more detail. And so, to start off with, yes, those are two of the duties that the justice of the peace performs, which is the inquest and the marriages.
Yeah.
I don't know which one's worse, but no, I'm just kidding. Marriage is a great thing. It's a beautiful thing to witness. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of. That's something that I already do right now, and it's just starting a new chapter for a lot of people is great. And then on the other end, ending a chapter, or and I guess ending the book, is
Yeah.
it's an unfortunate part, but it's a part of life. So aside from conducting marriages and inquests, the pronouncing people dead. The justice of the peace also performs magistrate duties. So
Okay.
if everybody has seen Judge Judy, everybody
Yeah.
knows Judge Judy. So
Yeah.
this that the people's court, that's exactly what one of the duties that the justice of the peace does. So they conduct civil court cases that are below $20,000 in value. That it used to be 10,000, but that amount, the minimum, that maximum amount, I'm sorry, was raised. I want to say it was 2 years ago in 2020 to $20,000. And so, well, let me backtrack a little bit. The main reason the justice of peace position was was made was to conduct civil court cases in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it offloads the court cases from the county courts, the district courts, things that can be handled quickly, effective, effectively and efficiently. And so like I said, we've seen Judge Judy, small civil court cases, person to person, without the needs of a lawyer, of an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the main things there. They're also a juvenile court. So for certain things, of course, not nothing like arson or murder or anything like that, but more of like a truancy court.
Mm-hmm.
So dealing with, we're working with the schools, the parents as well. It's a huge thing there. Writing, of doing the evictions, so eviction cases, writs of reentry, the renter tenant issues. And so that's something that a lot of people don't realize or don't know that goes through your JP courts.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, so those are a few of the main ones. And any criminal cases that are class C misdemeanors and non-jailable offenses. Now, there are times where a justice of peace has to magistrate over, you know, a more serious offense like a class B. At times, from what I've researched and talked to other JPs, class A's as well. But that's not very often. It's more class C misdemeanors. So like your PIs, your speeding tickets, trespassings, things like that. So things that you can't really go to jail for.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are the main ones, the main points. And here we in our area, we work a lot with hand in hand with game wardens.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're doing, like overfishing, fishing over the limit, if your fishes are too big or too small, fishing without a license, hunting, that's another one of the things that the JP takes care of. So again, that goes into the class C misdemeanors and non-jailable offenses. And let's see, there are a few others, a few
Yeah.
others I can talk more in depth of, but that's basically the gist of what a justice of the peace does in their capacity.
Yeah. Now, with regards to juvenile court, is that primarily truancy, where parents get hauled in because their kid doesn't end up going to school? Does that still happen? I mean, I know the last 2 years, most of our kids were not physically in school, right, because of the pandemic. But with
Right.
regards to juvenile court, is there a portion of it that deals with truancy still, or is that held by something or someone else?
So from my understanding, yes. Now, of course, with the way things have been going the last 2 years, that there there is some give and take with the truancy issues. But from my understanding, yes, the justice of peace still deal with the truancy court cases with the parents and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was able to talk to another JP. Again, I'm not in office, and so I can't really give you all the details,
Right.
um, you know, for sure. But from my understanding, and all my answers are going to be as best as that I can give, the,
No,
the
that's fine.
best answers that I can give, from the best of my knowledge. So, but from me consulting with other JPs, yes, they still deal with the truancy court cases and dragging in the parents, getting them, finding them for kids not showing up, because even though a lot of kids are still doing online school,
Yeah.
they still have to check in. They still
Yeah.
have to be present, so to say.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but of course, it's a funny, it's a funky, funny situation with
Right.
with the current. the
Yeah,
current way things are going with a lot of the online and the at home.
right. Well, one of the things that you mentioned was that, you did do juvenile court. So, if kids get into fights or things like that, they could end up in your court, correct?
Potentially speaking, yes. Now it
Yeah.
depends on the the level of the level of the assault. Again, if it's something that's above the pay grade, then it'll be turned over to what's now the 484th District Court.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a new court that's going up, and there was two ladies running for that court, and that's going to be where the main a lot of the more serious offenses for juveniles are going to be going to. So that 484th.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, I see it. I mean, I've been to the courthouse a few towns downtown, both as a participant in a lawsuit and on
That's
jury
unfortunate.
duty. And I kid you not. I mean, that place is packed. I mean, on any given day, it is packed, and all kinds of different cases and things like that. And I didn't realize that the JP position actually was, as you mentioned, a way to alleviate some of that bottleneck. Um, but where exactly, if you were to get elected, where would the JP office actually be? Would that be over at the courthouse in Brownsville, or would it be somewhere closer to Port Isabel? I I, I don't know where those are located.
Yeah, and so for precinct one, so each precinct has their own courthouse, their own offices and courts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the one here for precinct one is going to be located in Port Isabel,
Okay.
and so it is the Judge Benito Ochoa III Cameron County Court building, and so
Okay.
that is where the JP's office is. That is where the constable's office is, and that is where the tax assessor's office is. Um, so that is here in Port Isabel. So for us that live here in Port Isabel in the Guatemala area, that it's Old Tarpon Fields. So if you've passed through there, the closest thing to it, the next door neighbor is Hino Gas, and
Mm-hmm.
then a little bit further down, or before that, is a Bayquest. Is a t-shirt shop, and now it's got a big killer whale in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's right in between there. So we are primarily located here in Port Isabel. Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So basically, you would be handling cases with just within the precinct, not necessarily another precinct.
No. Yeah. Each precinct has their own JPs. So for precinct one, we have one primary JP, and so he's the justice of peace that handles everything for this precinct
Mm-hmm.
one. And for those that don't know, precinct one is comprised of Port Isabel, the Island, Laguna Heights, Laguna Vista, Boca Chica, and now a small portion of Brownsville.
Oh wow.
And so if a lot of people have gotten their voter registration cards, and so there have been some changes to the precinct, the voting precincts also, which a lot of people don't know as well. So some of them have been combined, the numbers have been changed. So the three voting precincts in Brownsville, which is going through 48, a little bit past 511 and 802. The three voting precincts what they previously was 68, 82, and 68, 86. I'm sorry, and 102.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe one of those. I think they've changed somewhat. I think they've also added in 14 and precinct 14 and precinct 7.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I gotta double check on those, but I know for sure the previous listing was 68, 86, and 102. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so we will have a chunk of Brownsville, and so
Oh
that's
wow.
actually added in about 10,000, give or take, more registered voters.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
and so
realize that the precinct was that big. I was under the impression that it was just Port Isabel and the island for the most part.
no, no,
Yeah.
mileage wise, square mileage, precinct one. is the largest precinct square mileage wise, and we're not the most populated precinct. But like I said, now that with the redistricting that the commissioners court did a few months ago, they added in that little chunk of brown. It's like a little triangle,
Uh-huh.
and so that's brought in more, you know, more people,
Mm-hmm.
more residents for our precinct here. And so yeah, but back to the original question, precinct one has one JP. Precinct two, which is Brownsville, they have three JPs, and those are all. I don't know exactly where they're located. I know one of them's in the county courthouse. I think all three of them may be in the county
Mm-hmm.
courthouse. I'm not completely sure, so don't quote me on that. Precinct three has three JPs, I believe. Precinct four has two, and then precinct five has one. I say.
So
I want to
is
say.
each one of those in the larger precincts? Is that why they're called like position 1 and 2 or
Yes.
something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are gonna, yes, sir. Those are going to be much larger population wise
Yeah.
precincts. Like Brownsville. That's why Brownsville has three, and Portisville or our Laguna Madre area has one.
Okay.
So there's
Okay.
population wise, there's just much, much more, 10 times as many people as there are here. So
Well, and
yeah.
y'all, you mentioned that one of the roles of the JP is to handle civil cases, small claims cases. Is that the case?
Yes. So small civil court cases.
Okay, so
That
if somebody owes me money and they don't pay that, then I go to your court to actually fight that out.
yes.
Um,
So you would
y'all
go.
also do restraining orders and things like that.
I believe so. I believe there is restraining orders. Don't quote me on that because I'm with that. I cannot give you a 100% answer, but
Yeah.
I will look into that and I will definitely get back to you for,
Okay.
with the solidified answer on that.
Yeah. So what improvements do you think that you can bring into the JP office that hasn't been done or tried before? What areas do you think that we can actually become more efficient?
I think there are a number of areas that we become more efficient and effective. So for one, I'm not going to tell you everything because I don't want to let all my secrets out the bag until I get elected, right?
All right.
I don't want to be having this conversation and the next thing you know it's being implemented, a couple
Right.
months down the road.
Yeah.
And so if it is, you know where that idea came from. So make sure make sure you vote for the right person.
Right.
Make sure so at least this time you actually know who you're voting for, right? Um, so to start off with, making sure that the JPs, they get paid a full-time salary.
Okay, I
So
didn't realize that. Oh wow.
yeah, so as of last, I want to say it was last year, they the JP's salary will raise $5,000 each.
Uh huh.
So it went from 60,000 to 65,000.
Oh wow.
Now, for most people, that's a full-time salary.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, right? So actually working a full-time schedule, 40 hours a week. Most JPs do not do that. They do it on a part-time basis. So getting in there, getting to work, opening up, making our courts and offices open and accessible. So having an open door policy. So right now, 2 years down the road, still our current our current situation is that they're still doing Zoom meetings,
Yeah.
and there's only one court date throughout the week, which is Wednesdays. So my plan is to open up a second court date throughout the week. Of course, have the accessibility through Zoom meetings if all parties agree to it. Because I don't. Sometimes people, if you try to do a Zoom meeting, some people still don't have access to internet or they don't have reliable access to internet. Correct?
Yeah.
And for the most part, I think these issues should be taken care of in person
Yeah.
because
How
that's going to
off
be the easy.
How often were the court dates prior to the Zoom meetings implemented before the pandemic? Was it more frequent or
It's
less
just
frequent?
every Wednesday, from my understanding, and
Uh-huh.
so every Wednesday now, like I said, getting to work, so working a full time schedule, and so that's one of the things I'm gonna bring into this position because I know what it's like to work, you know, 80 to 100 hour weeks. I know
Right.
what it's like. in opening my business, I worked the 16 to 20-hour days
Yeah.
where I would stay here and sleep
Yeah.
and then wake up, open up at 4:45 a.m., work all day, take a
Yeah.
little nap, continue working. So I understand what it's like to work. And so working a full-time schedule, 40 hours is going to be a breeze.
So most of these JPs currently are doing it on a part-time basis.
For now, I cannot speak for all of them, but I know that from the ones that I've consulted with, that a lot of them do work on a part-time basis.
Oh,
Yes. And
so it's
or they
kind of
don't
like
work full-time
extra play money.
in a way. And JPs make their own schedules.
Yeah.
And so, being able to open up another court date is something that is very viable.
Yeah.
So like I said, or a few of my ideas are, which will be in a minute, are to open up a second court date, and we can open up a night court.
Yeah.
And so doing something at night, because a lot of people have, 9 to 5, 8 to 5 jobs, a day job. And
Right.
I don't think people shouldn't have to miss work or take a day off to go handle a ticket, or their court case, or whatever it is, the issue at hand. Because that's because of scheduling.
Right.
You know, and
So
so
does the office also handle traffic tickets? Tickets?
yeah, yes. So they
Okay.
handle traffic tickets that are not dealt with by the municipality. So if it's the constable, if it's the DPS, if it's the game warden, if it's the Cameron County Park Rangers here that we have,
Uh,
the sheriffs, anything that's not a municipality police officer, that is where the tickets will go. The traffic tickets will go to.
uh,
Yes.
shucks. If I get a ticket from the Port Isabel PD, I'm screwed.
You're gonna have to start crying or something.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I remember a few years back, I ended up getting a ticket. I'll admit it. I was outrunning the game warden, but I wasn't because of fishing. Actually, I was an avid jet skier back in my 20s, and
Gotcha.
so they used to pick on us quite a bit. They went after us for life vests. Of course, I always wore mine, right? But they were really avid about the fire extinguisher being operational. And,
Yeah.
with salt water, it affects those fire extinguishers to where, you can't pull or press on the button at times. And uh, I knew they were after me, so I hauled it, at 65 on the water. And I actually outran the game warden. I'll admit it, you know. I'll admit it years later, but I did.
It, it's a
But
good
I
thing it
didn't
can't come back.
realize that you guys handled the game warden citations as well.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's a state police. That it's very similar to it's like how the DPS trooper is as well, and so that all goes to the JP courts.
Wow. Wow. And of course, marriages. How often do these judges do marriages?
That's on the judge basis. That's
Yeah.
that's up to the judge, and
Okay.
so everybody can get married. And here in the state of Texas, the laws are a little different from elsewhere,
Hmm.
and so you don't like you have to go to the court, at least to the county clerk, to get your marriage license.
Right.
So you don't have to go to the JP's court. Most people go to JP's court because you can get this stuff there as well, and then they'll get everything situated for you.
But I
So
think
I
the JP actually attends a ceremony and does the marrying part of it, right?
Yeah, so they can do it outside of the court. They can do it inside of the court. It isn't. They can do it wherever. And so I currently do marriages. I'm a ordained minister myself. I've done.
Oh,
I've
I didn't
already
know
done.
that. Wow.
Yeah. So I do marriages, and so you don't have to do them inside the court there. You can go do them wherever. You can do them on the beach. You can do them, as long as you have the marriage license, you're able to sign off on it, and the couple acknowledges that this is a certified an official marriage, then you're good to go. As long as you
Yeah.
turn it back into the county clerk's office within 90 days.
All right. Wow. That's good to know. Not that I'm getting married. I'm already married, right? But a lot of people don't know, what the process is to actually find somebody to marry them. I mean, I know that you can go to the court, the clerk's the clerk's office, to get the
Yes.
marriage license. But a lot of times they're chasing, either a priest or a minister, to marry them. And these days churches are pretty iffy about that too. If you don't attend that specific church, they're kind of hesitant to marry somebody. So
Yes.
a lot of people don't know that there's an alternative way to do that, and you've kind of given us an idea here as to how that can work.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what actually made you run on the Republican ticket? I know that our podcast has been on for about a month or so, and I've had actually more Republicans on the show than I've had Democrats. And I've been pleading with Democrats to come on, but I'm not really sure why they haven't been. They've been slow to accept the invitations. But I've had more Republicans. So what actually made? And by the way, a lot of friends have criticized me. They say, "Oh, you're running a Republican show." No, I'm running a nonpartisan show. It just so
Yeah.
happens that Republicans were first. So,
Very.
what actually made you run on the Republican ticket?
So there are numerous reasons as to why. First and foremost, it's a personal decision. You know, choosing a political party is based on your values and what you believe and what aligns best for you.
Right.
And so I guess so let me backtrack this a little bit. So being from the valley, being a Hispanic, a lot of people think that you're automatically or they're gonna lump you in automatically with being labeled as a Democrat, correct?
Correct.
And so, I mentioned this. I actually had a little interview with the Washington Post, and Dave, the gentleman that I was talking to, journalist, and it's funny because I was listening to your podcast with Carlos,
Yeah.
and he mentioned this as well, which is, if you're Hispanic, people automatically think you're Catholic and Democrat.
That
That
is true.
Yeah, and so when I was listening to that, I was like,
And diabetic. And don't forget diabetic.
don't forget diabetic too. But that's not the case,
Yeah.
And here, of course, that's what's pushed and pushed and pushed. That's what you're gonna learn. That's what
Right.
you're gonna identify with, right? For those that actually care about the political party stuff. Now, of course, growing up, as we all know here, it's heavy, heavy, heavy Democrat influence,
Right.
right? And so that's known now. Now it's known nationwide, but now it's, hey, we're making a change. It's flipping. Uh, but so growing up, you know, that's all we knew. Hey,
Yeah.
Democrat, Valley Democrat, Spanish Democrat. And so when I went to college, graduating from high school, going into college, that was from 2011 to 2016. And so you had Obama. Obama is, it's like, man, look at that. First black president, first minority president. Gentleman he speaks very well, very
Right.
articulate. Just a great presenter, right? And so, going on the tail end of 2011 to 2012, from 2012 to 2016, going into 2012, we have, Donald Trump's making his appearance. All the Republicans are making theirs. You have Bernie Sanders, Hillary. Bernie Sanders is promising free college tuition and student loan forgiveness. Um, a lot of the welfare. Hey, equal opportunity, equal outcome for everybody.
Hmm.
And of course, I'm thinking, as a 19-year-old college student who had just taken out student loans, I'm like, man, student loan forgiveness, free college. I think that sounds pretty great, right?
Yeah.
And we're not taught otherwise.
Yeah.
And so, is that, we're not taught the basics of economics. Like we are, but it's not taken very serious.
Yeah.
We're not taught the basics of civics and government. And like I said, we are, but it's not taken very serious. It doesn't dive deeper into it. And so, like I said, so going through college, I was like, great. All that free crap sounds, sorry, excuse my language. All that free stuff sounds awesome, right?
Yeah.
So as you're going through, like I said, promising all this stuff, promising everything, So, from 2012 and on upwards to, we don't learn, you don't learn a lot of real life, real life skills that you need for everyday life outside of college.
Mhm.
It's great education, but the application is not there, the applicability. And so like I said, I was like, hey, Bernie, vote again for Obama, because Obama, again, that's hey, he's a great dude, great person. He wants to help out, forgive, do all this stuff, right? Um, great face for the nation. Well, as I've gotten a little older, from 2015, 2016, and seeing how, you know, the shift in going from, so like, establishment figures, political figures, so to say, to somebody like Donald Trump, who is an established figure, but not an establishment figure. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
And then seeing, before I was like, oh man, we're not gonna get free this, we're not gonna get free that. He's cutting these programs and things like that, but it was uh it was a lack of understanding. And so I'm not, I'm not saying that, I'm die hard for a certain political party or a certain person. No, like, I believe that the best person, you should vote for the person, not the party,
Mm-hmm.
because that ultimately, like Carlos was saying in y'all's podcast a couple of weeks ago, you're voting for the people and their perspectives. You're voting for the people and their policies,
Right.
and that's what's ultimately going to affect us. And so getting off a little off track. Uh, so in learning a little more and becoming more business savvy, as I started looking into, okay, how do I start a business? How do I go about bringing this to the city? How do I, get it? How do I get it? What do I need to do? Right? There's a bunch of steps that need to be done. When learning all the steps and seeing that there's, like, the way things are done on the governmental level is very slow.
Right.
It's very inefficient. It's very ineffective. It's effective after a long period of time, but it's, like I said, the efficiency is not there.
Right.
So things get done at a snail pace. Now, but in seeing myself grow and read, and a lot of what I've done has been self-education, and learning a bit more about the way things are ran, on the federal level is one thing, but learning how things are ran at the local level is as was a whole nother door being flung open
Mm-hmm.
and seeing a light into something else, because we're not taught the municipality politics. We're not taught municipality government system.
Right.
And like I said, that's what directly affects us as residents, as community members here,
Right.
here, there, wherever you're at.
Yeah.
And so in running Republican, it's I started having a mind, a shift in my perspective as I began to pay more taxes, because as business owners, small business owners, what people don't realize is that, the taxes we pay from being an employee to being a business owner, an entity, you pay numerous amounts of taxes.
Right.
And in not knowing where these are going or how these are being utilized, it's like, in a way, you kind of see, okay, now I can see why we had, the rebellions back, the Boston Tea Party back in the day, taxation without representation,
Right.
because that's essentially what it feels like a lot of times,
Yeah.
because we don't know where our taxes are going, we don't know how they're being used, you know, if they are being used in the right way, then okay, well, why aren't we? But there's a lot of other, you know, um, smaller significant details that go into all this, right?
Right.
That,
Right.
but yeah, but in seeing, okay, now I understand why, you know the Republican Party is known for being business like, for being very dry, for being straightforward, cutthroat. and things like that,
Yeah.
because I believe that after having become a business owner, you got to work for everything that you want.
Right.
And
Well,
well,
one of the things that I know has happened, you know, especially on the Republican side, is, I mean, I remember a time, when the Republican Party was, basically dominated by Reagan, and me being a product of the 80s, being a Gen Xer, I mean, I grew up with the role of limited government, low taxes, global competition, free markets, less regulation, more global trade. And I know that in the last few years, the party, especially with the new standard bearer in front, has taken some of the less traditional Republican themes. We've gone to America first. We've gone to, you know, uh, tariffing other countries to try to equalize trade and so forth. But one of the things I think in your role as a JP is that you're probably going to run into cases where you may have a small business owner that's being sued by somebody, or maybe two uh, small businesses going after each other for whatever. Uh, what how do you feel your role will be as a JP? Obviously, you have a responsibility to the constituents, and that includes both the individuals and the and maybe small business. Will you be a fair listener to both sides? You have judges today that are either on this side of the fence or that side of the fence, and
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, no, then that has to be the first thing as a judge that you have to remember when you're making these judgments is that you're supposed to make these judgments in an unbiased, sound way, given whatever evidence and whatever arguments are brought to you in your court. You have to you have to be able to have empathy for both individuals because hey, something happened over here, something happened over here. There was a conflict. They're coming to you to help sort this conflict out.
yeah,
So if you can't make judgments in an unbiased way, you shouldn't be a judge. And
right,
unfortunately, at least with what's being reported, you're seeing a lot of judgments being made based off of the party
yeah,
and not what's being presented.
right,
And so as a for my personal opinion, I believe that judge positions should be nonpartisan
mm,
because you it's about making sound unbiased judgments. It's not
right,
about you have, like I said, you have to be able to have empathy for these people.
right,
So understand what they're going through, you know, take it in, but then be able to separate yourself out to be able to make the judgments in an unbiased way.
right,
Because hey, just like like with renter tenant issues, for example. And so I've had a lot of people come and consult with me and not consult, but tell me about their renter tenant issues. I'm like, well, there's laws in place to make sure neither person takes advantage of the other.
right,
And those have to be followed. Like, yes, I understand that the renter, this is a business forum. Uh, you know, in this case, from what we've seen the last 2 years, rent, for forbearance of rent, things like that. Well, the mortgage doesn't stop, the taxes don't stop, the insurance doesn't stop. So how is that renter going to be able to pay for a TMI if there's nothing coming in?
yeah,
And so, but if it's also on the other side, say, hey, the tenant did all they could within the contract and within their best abilities to keep this place looking nice. They upkept everything, maintained everything. They even made additions to to the place, and the renter is coming back after the tenant has moved out and trying to charge them for all these ridiculous charges and making claims as to what they owe when that's not the case, just so that they can make more money off of them and take advantage. But that's not fair either. You know, in the case of having a business and a business or a person to person suing each other, wait, let me hear your side of the story. Let me hear your side of the story.
Yeah.
Okay, make your presentation, and then we'll make a judgment based off of that.
Yeah. Now,
You know,
just to elaborate a little bit more on that topic, I don't understand much about the renter protection the last 2 years with regards to COVID. I know that there was uh, guarantees of protection for renters. I know businesses had something, and I don't know about individuals. But how did that work? Let's hypothetically say that a person quit working or couldn't work because of COVID or
right.
whatever. Did the did the rent just stop being owed, or was it accumulated and now there's an expectation? So let's say somebody was out of work because of COVID or whatever for like 3 or 4 months, and let's say their rent is $500. So let's say they were out for 4 months. That's $2,000 accumulated besides the current month's rent. Were they expected after the protections went away, and I think they already went away, to pay up the 2,000 plus the current rent, or was it, and could somebody get evicted in that situation? I guess I just don't understand how that process was going to work.
And so I can't speak to you on that in a how do I say for sure. So
Yeah.
I'm not I can't give you a solid answer, but I can speak to you. I'm going to speak to you from personal experience.
Yeah.
So with when it comes to rent, the the you have to talk with your landlord,
Yeah.
and the landlord is the one that ultimately makes the decision on how they want to, if they want to give you a break, if they want to prorate, if they want to just add it on to the end, you know, like
Yeah.
extend your lease out however many months it was.
Right.
uh, you know, that only comes down to to communication between the landlord and the tenant.
Right.
All these protections and everything, because it also varies by state.
Right.
There's a lot of discrepancies with that. So from personal experience, even though we were forced to shut down my business for 2 months, our landlord was still expecting payment, and they were still charging us with late fees.
Really?
Yes, right.
Wow.
And so even though we had tried to reach out and talk to them, they gave us the cold shoulder, and they said they were still sending us late notices, and there was communication. And so
Yeah.
of course this was a an anomaly, but what we tried to do was communicate with them, let them know the situation. We tried to pay what we could.
Yeah.
Again, there was still issues on, and so still issues on that end. Now, again, it's I have other stories of other friends and other business owners, other gym owners as well, who their landlords gave them a break, and they just said, "Hey, don't worry about these 2 months right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pay us what you can, and we're gonna add on. You know, we're just gonna extend out your lease for another 2 months, and you pay us what you can when you can."
Right.
I had others that they locked them out.
Wow.
They weren't able to get in, and they started the eviction process, which
Wow.
was, you know, an unfortunate thing. And then I had others that were like that they said that their landlords just completely forgave those 2 months. They said they didn't need it, save up whatever they could, and just pay them the next month.
Wow.
And so there are different stories on that. And like I said, the discrepancies come from because of state to state laws are very, very, very different. So I can't speak to you on that, but I can again, I will look that up. I
Yeah.
will consult with some other JPs that I know, and I will get back to you with the definite answer.
Okay. Now you mentioned, and this will be the last question. uh, you mentioned you were an ordained minister, and I sometimes for some of my interviewees I ask this question. You can opt to answer it or not answer it. Uh, but basically, looking at the last 2 years with the pandemic and so forth, how has faith affected your own personal life? And how do you think faith will contribute to you should you be elected as a JP?
Yeah. So I will answer this, and I will answer it with a full heart. Faith is one of those things where, is it questionable at times due to circumstances at hand? Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 22, you know, at 22, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so being 22, thinking that I was healthy at the time, I was still exercising, eating pretty good, doing everything I could, that all came crashing down on me. But, what one book that I always reach out and reread in times of hardship is the book of Job.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those of you that don't know, I'll just give you a brief summary. Job was a very wealthy, very well-known man. Everything was stripped away from him as a test by, by the devil. And he never once forsake God for putting him through these obstacles.
Right.
So he worked through it, you know, and it was one of those things where you just continue to work through it, keep praying, hold your faith, hold fast in your faith, and God will reward you for being a servant, for being a servant of Him and His kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my faith has brought me up to this point, and it's going to continue to take me wherever it goes. Wherever, whatever plan, whatever map God has for me, that's where I'm going to go. I live my life by another Bible verse. It's the Second Chronicles 15:7, and it's, be strong, therefore do not let your hands be weak, for your work shall be rewarded. And so what he's saying there is, keep working hard. You may not see the results right away, but your work's going to be rewarded. And so I know with this race, I know with this campaign that God will reward me for the work that I put in. And if he thinks that I deserve the win based off of the work that I've done, I will get rewarded. If I didn't work hard enough for it, or if there was something that I could have done more, or if he believes that it's just not the right time, then then hey, I learned from it, and I'm happy to say that this has all helped me grow as a man.
Right.
And so yeah, so my faith is going to be one of the things that I rely on heavily, and that I rely on heavily already, and that I'm going to continue to rely on.
Yeah.
Along with my family, my support system, my friends, they're everybody, everybody out there, and people that I've met and that I haven't met. Um, I got a strong faith if that's gonna if that's gonna answer your question.
Yeah. Well, I just like you, I am a two-time cancer survivor. I originally had cancer at 15, and a few years ago I had colon cancer. And luckily, I was pretty lucky both times to come out of it okay.
That's
So
awesome,
I,
man.
I know what you went through. My first bout with cancer, I was 30 years free, cancer free, and then the second one just came out of a surprise, but it was stage 0, luckily.
Yeah,
So I definitely, brother, I definitely know what you've gone through, and like I said, faith is important when it comes to facing those challenges. And I know it's not easy as a politician to talk about faith, but I sure appreciate when somebody, especially somebody running for political office, comes on and talks candidly about their faith, because it's not an easy subject. Some people shy
no,
away, but some people shy away from it. But I think that people need to talk more about their faith. You know?
yeah, and I think that stems from from not wanting from people not wanting to talk about, again, religion and politics.
Yeah.
Our founding fathers, they wrote the Constitution The first, what's in what is the Declaration of, or the Constitution? In God we trust. That
Right.
is that is what it says in our Constitution. That is the biggest lettering that you can see on there.
Right.
And and we if we can agree to disagree, cool. I'm not going to
Yeah.
go in and try to convert you to whatever you don't want to be. If you don't want to talk about it, then great. Hey,
Yeah.
we can talk about sports or whatever else.
There's plenty
But
of things to talk about, right?
plenty of
Yeah.
things to talk about. But as long as we can do this in a civil manner, talk politics, talk faith, and
Yeah.
just talk about life, then a lot of things will be solved. There's a lack of communicate. We have so many means of communicating, but there's such little actual communication.
Right.
Does that if that makes sense?
Right. And you're right. I mean, I have two other pretty successful shows. I had not anticipated starting a political podcast show, but I decided early on this year it was something that I needed to do because there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of noise out there and misinformation, and I think that we all have an opportunity to contribute and to bring to light what the issues truly are and the people that are representing us, you know.
Yes.
And so, I think each of us has an opportunity to serve our area in some fashion or form. And I definitely appreciate you for the attempt that you're making to run for political office. And is there anything in closing that you would like to share with the audience? Could you tell us when the election is? I know you didn't have a primary opponent. Well, yeah, you didn't have a primary opponent, right?
No primary opponent. So there's a few elections coming up. Our election, for those people that don't know, is going to be November 8th of 2022, November 8th of this year. So in what are we in 3, 11, so 9 months, 8 months. Can't do simple math right now. 8 months. Uh, yeah. So ours is going to be November 8th of this year of 2022, and that's election day, and that's going to be the Super Bowl day, right? Super Bowl
Yeah,
for this. And so I've
right,
been trying to make that comparison. The primaries are like the playoffs. The general election is the Super Bowl, and so ours is November 8th. In the coming months, May, you have the runoff election for the primaries, and then you have a lot of municipality elections. So we are not going to be in those two. I'm not going to be in those two,
okay,
but I will be very active in getting people still to get out and vote because you have your city commissioners, you have your mayors, you have school board, you have other governmental entities for the cities that are very vital to our everyday lives.
right,
So I'll be very vocal about those. But like I said, November 8th is ours, and that's going to be our Super Bowl there. And like I said, I'm still going to be very vocal about that, letting everybody know when, where, how to go vote. If they're not registered, how to register, how to look up if they're not registered. Um, yeah. So talking about that, that's kind of information there. Of course, if anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy and open to giving any more information out that I can provide to anybody there. I guess in closing, Daniel, I appreciate you giving me the chance to speak with some of our listeners here. Whether they're listening live or they're going to be listening here in the next couple of days. Post show. I appreciate the opportunity. I know we were able to jump around and talk, a little bit about this and that and a few different topics. But if anybody wants to speak with me, they can reach out to me directly, and I will be happy to answer any questions or jump on a phone call with them if need be, or meet with them at anytime that we can. So that way, if they want to learn more about my platform, my core values, what I believe, and just see or just talk to them for myself, I'm open to it. And so, that's pretty much in closing. Like I said, I appreciate the time taken. Thank you for the invite. And I hope, we can jump on another one of these podcasts and discussions soon.
Well, definitely. We plan to be pretty active between now and November, so I'm pretty sure we'll be inviting you back as the race gets closer. I truly appreciate the fact that you came on. I know I was pestering you for a couple of days. I apologize for that. Sending you
Oh man.
messages at midnight. So, but I hope I wasn't too much of a pain in the butt.
Oh no. That's the thing is that, like I said, there's a lot of communication, but there's a lack of communication of communicating. So
Yeah.
no, I'm happy. I'm happy to do this. I'm happy that we were able to sit down and like I said, express this and just express the platform and for people to get to know a little bit more about myself. Hear me speak on topics. And like I said, if they want to sit down and go over my platform much deeper, I got 10 goals and objectives that I'm going to be digging in and accomplishing within that first year when I'm elected into office. And so I'm saying when because I'm manifesting this.
Yeah.
And so, you got to manifest things to make it happen. You got to visualize it and then take action, execute or implement and then execute. And so,
Alrighty.
yeah,
Okay, everybody. Well, this was the end of our podcast. I am grateful that Andrew had an opportunity to come on the show to talk a little bit about his campaign. Once again, the election is in November, and we'll bring Andrew back as we get closer. Andrew, thank you for joining us, and everybody have a good evening and a good night.
thanks, Daniel. Everybody
Thank
have a
you.
great night. God bless.